Hey everybody, it's Tuesday.
And welcome to this week's edition of Hook, Line, and Striker.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Emily. And we are excited to be here with you tonight.
Yeah, and as live goes, we might have a little bit of problems here and there, and normally we don't have too many problems, but tonight we got some storms going on, and other people have other stuff weather-wise going on, and this and that. So we're having a little bit of a connection problem with our guest, but we'll get him on as soon as we can. Or you might just have to talk with us again tonight. For you guys.
But whether he is able to join us this evening or not, either way, we are still here to, first of all, highlight a little bit about him and have him on again. So, if you have ever been out, with Andrew or anything like that, drop us in the comments how that's going. Yeah, that is a little bit what it feels like. The weather here is pretty crazy, and for other states as well. But I guess we do always kind of start out with a fishing report, but the weather is a huge piece of that this time of the year. Well, every time of the year.
Yeah. So we just went and it was a nice weekend. It started out a little chilly, but we got on the water and got it stuck a couple walleyes, a couple nice ones even. That was nice. Put them all back, though.
One of the things I was shocked about is, as we were driving north from where we live, how much ice was still on a lot of the different bodies of water, especially the smaller bodies that we drove by, because we had so much rain the end of last week that I assumed that driving north almost nowhere would have ice, but that is not the case. So I'm not saying that it's walkable. I'm not saying drive north, it's ice season, because none of those things are necessarily true. I never stop and check depth because, again, shorelines were super degraded and we were just driving by. But you got to keep in mind the water temperatures are still cold enough that in some places there is still ice floating around.
Yeah, and even while we were out on the boat, there was chunks of ice that we were dodging and other people were intentionally hitting. But it's so it just is changing all over the place. Our friends over in Minnesota, they're still on ice. We have some friends here, just north of us, up by the UP area, there's 20 inches of ice. So, there you can get on both if you want to drive. For us, we have limited time, so it was time to get the boat out.
But I think, you kind of were talking about this before, or at least hitting on it. I think the name of the game right now is transition.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are still between ice and open water. A lot of people are still between different fishing seasons, depending on your state. A lot of people, the fish themselves are in transition, especially walleye, because that's what we were fishing. They are in transition in that spawn mode. So, kind of a unique time of the year.
Yeah, and we're blessed to live in a really nice area where we are allowed to do some spring walleye fishing. I know a lot of the other Midwest states that's closed for a while yet. And we get a chance to go out there. It's a good chance for us to show off our conservation skills and be picky and choosy about what we take home and what we let go. Emily and I, we just choose to throw most of ours back. That's just how it goes. We fish a lot, so we keep fish when we want to, and the rest go back. But it's a fun time of year to fish, and if you have a chance, come on over and try it out. Make sure you have your license and stuff. We had to renew our licenses. All of the Great Lakes fishing, you're required to have a paper copy of your license in the boat with you, so make sure you have that. But it was fun.
Andrew, if you are on or if you're watching or trying to log in or whatever, hang out or join us if you can or not. Otherwise, we'll talk to you either way. But if we are not, necessarily waiting, I guess we can talk about the extended version of kind of our fishing report, because something that I think is really important to bring up that, gosh, I don't think almost anybody talks about it. Well, and let's start with the misconception first. The misconception is that the walleye spawn is going on. You go to these hot places, all the names of where Green Bay, De Pere, Wolf River, Fox River, all these spots. But I think one of the things that people forget is that the beginning of the spawn, the fish are very driven to do something very specific. And so, people think, oh, spawn, awesome. It's, I can go there and have a once in a lifetime event or once a year, whatever that is for you. But you have to remember what is going on during the spawn. And that is part of why your water temperatures are so important. Because you can only get so much of the accurate information from Facebook this time of the year. I always say, that's a great place to go, get the start, but, find out truly what those water temps are, because if you are on the beginning of that spawn, those fish are going to be going upriver to do what they do, and so I think a lot of times, you do catch fish because maybe it's a reaction bite or maybe they are hungry and, opportunistic eating kind of thing. But I think so often people don't realize that there's a lot of fish out there that honestly even just get snagged because these fish are going to do the other things and people are jigging pretty aggressively. So kind of a unique thing out there to be experiencing and kind of different than what you typically hear on social media.
Yeah, and water temp is a huge thing, especially when you have, lure choice and the way you play it. For us, it was mid 30s, mid to upper 30s. Those fish are still a little bit chilly and they're not super active. So you have, you can fish that like a vibrating lure, a vibrating bait, or to get a reaction bite, or like we were doing, we were just like short hopping 4 inches up off the bottom and just really slow. And like you could even pause it. And a lot of times you could feel them pin it to the dirt. And then you just hold on to it for a second and then wait for it to like pull away from you, because then they like suck and then they turn around. And so it wasn't like snap jigging or anything. It was pretty slow, and we did pretty good, compared talking around with some of the other boats. Keeping vertical is key this time of year, just because stuff is floating up and down, and if you're pulling it through, you might be snagging up a lot, or you might be catching stuff that's going out in the water. If you're going up and down, keeping your line up and down, less snags, and you're keeping your bait in that strike zone.
You also have to think about presentation when you're talking about keeping your jig mostly up and down. Because if you think about, let's go jig in a minnow, because that's so often what bait shops will say, jig in a minnow. It's easy to recommend to people. Any color that you want, just use it. Buy some minnows, And to some extent, it is true. It is, people catch fish on that bait. So it works, but if you think of how that is presented in the water, if you're a boat, if you're dragging that along the bottom, just imagine in your brain, like a jig just getting dragged along the bottom with a minnow on it. Okay, fine. Will you get bites? Absolutely. Because it's a minnow that looks dead at the bottom or kind of moving, But if you also think about that more vertical presentation where that bait, I'm like going behind the sign there, it's all backwards on my camera, but when you can create those little hops and look more like a dying bait, I guess that's a little bit more enticing to fish. It's a little bit more eye-catching. And especially when you're in the river this beginning of the season, sometimes it can be really muddied up just from everything flowing through that system. So anytime you can add that eye-catching or movement, that can be important in getting that bite.
Yeah. So we got an email from Andrew. He said that Google kicked him off the internet. We could call him. You want to try calling him?
Call him live on air. We've never done anything, and he's not prepared for this. So we'll see how this goes, people. So I was going to say read the number. We cannot tell everybody his personal number. But he is a guide, so maybe he would give it to you, but I got to let him do that.
So, just sticking with the walleye talk, there's a lot of
Hold on, I'm putting this on speaker.
Oh, you got it.
Can you guys hear this? Yeah, let us know. It's ringing. Hold on.
Hey, Emily.
Andrew, you are live.
On the phone, yes.
And actually, we are live in the middle of the show. We've been talking about trying to connect with you. We have no idea if people can hear you or not, but we figured, we got your email, and we will connect, honestly, another time, too, so we're not putting you on the spot. But we figured at least we got your email that we'd call and say hello.
Hey, how are you? I don't know what is going on. Sometimes technology gets the best of me. Apparently it did today.
That's all of us, man.
That is for sure. So, hey, we found your Facebook page, Northstar Fishing Adventures, and there's a bunch of cool stuff up there. So we were going to highlight like a few little things because you got some awesome stuff on that page. We're going to share it so people check you out. But even if we cannot make connecting tonight happen, get you on the air either way.
Well, sounds like they can hear him just fine. So,
well, do you have like a few minutes to chat this?
Yeah,
way? I
you
mean,
just
it's a
want
little
to
bit
chat on the phone?
unconventional.
Yeah, I mean, we can do with what we got because it just kicked me right off of right out of there. Google did. I don't know what the link is, but I was on the site with you guys for a while, and then all of a sudden it just went boom, and it all went down, and I can't pull it back up. So,
yeah, no problem. This works great.
Okay, excellent.
Okay. Well, we were just talking about like walleyes and stuff by us. So if anybody at home has other comments or questions or things about walleyes, drop that in that comment section and we'll get to that probably at some point. But otherwise, whoa, our screen is flashing. That doesn't normally happen. Yeah, all kinds of crazy technology things going on tonight. So we will.
Oh, there it goes.
Yeah, work this out. But for the people at home, we are actually talking with Andrew tonight. And you are with Northstar Fishing Adventures. So I guess our first question is always, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I am 47 years old, 46. That's my birthday in a couple days. I've got a couple kids, lived in Michigan the vast majority of my life. I lived in a couple other states when I was younger. My home, I live on Saginaw Bay, which is on Lake Huron. And it's just a gigantic bay. Most people kind of look at them. If you look at the map, like Michigan looks like a mitten.
Yeah.
Kind of where the thumb is there, kind of that would be that bay down in there. And it's enormous. It's about 1,143 square miles, they say. So it doesn't look that big on a map, but when you get on it, it's an absolutely monstrous piece of water. And it's a great place to certainly have set up my fishing career. I've always loved fishing since I was a young boy. It was just, I took to it right away. And that is all I wanted to do. Pretty much all the ways right on up through till now. That's been my big focus in life, other than work and family and things. But fishing has been a great thing to me and have taken me many great places and many great experiences.
That's really awesome. And Josh is actually doing kind of a good job of scrolling through your Facebook right now. So we are seeing a lot of different species of fish. So are you a multi-species angler or do you kind of like one more than the other?
I like doing the multi-species thing. I always, back when you're a kid, then you have like your heroes and things and shows that you used to love and still do love. I remember when the In-Fisherman came out and that was just... not like just Bill Dance catching bass every day. They were doing multi-species thing, shows on just about everything. And it intrigued me. I love fishing for just about everything I can. Being a guide now or a charter captain, that limits me to, not being able to go for all these different kinds of species. Pretty much walleye and perch are what the majority of people want to go for. So that's what I do the majority of the time. But in my spare time, I definitely get out and try to do some of this multi-species, as many different kinds of fish as I can. Luckily, we're blessed here with, the Great Lakes in Michigan, and we have just such a wide variety of different kinds of fish and just monstrous bodies of water. So the sky's kind of the limit. It's just pick and choose where and what you want to go for. A lot of what you do is you chase the fish in their seasonal pattern. Every fish has a time of year they bite the best, and that's kind of what you do is you travel around and hit those bites around the state, and sometimes out of the state. We can end up over in Canada and even out in the Midwest by you guys. So, but yeah, I definitely like trying to target all different things. Keeps it from getting a little boring there doing the same thing in and out every day. But walleyes are my core fish that I target the majority of the time.
Well, and that is perfect for this time of the season. I think a lot of people are thinking walleyes right now. So we have Kevin asking, what is the best bait for walleyes in your opinion?
This time of year or like just year round?
Actually, I'm interested in the answers to both those.
Gotcha. I would say probably year round, jig and wrap would probably be my favorite bait. They work fantastic through the ice all year. You can, they work great out of the boat. You can cast them, you can jig them, you can do about anything with that bait. And I use that year round. That would be my favorite lure. As for right now, a lot of what we're doing is two different things going on right now. A lot of our walleyes are up in river spawning, and in most parts of the country, the season's closed for walleyes during the spawn. But here in the Great Lakes, we have some of the major rivers which connect one Great Lake to the next, so it's considered, it's open year round. So the walleyes, you can fish them during the spawn because there's just such immense numbers of fish. This time of year, we use on those rivers is really heavy current. We use large jig heads, like up to 1 ounce, and we use just a lot of different types of plastics, ISS and plastics and finesse fish, things like that. And we just basically vertical jig those fish and use our mount trolling motors to keep our lines vertical and drift down the river and put that bait right in those fish's faces. And that's what we do. And then, of course, the other thing you're doing, we have fish that are transitioning out of the rivers now and are getting back out in the Great Lakes and things. And we've always got fish out there too. We have reef spawning fish and things along those lines. Your basic trolling, a lot of guys are using bandits and deep down husky jerks. Any of those large crankbaits. Some guys are we'll do some flicker shads, your larger flicker shads this time of year for those trolling applications on those fish that are either dropping back out of the river or reef spawners.
Mm-hmm. And in Kevin's original question, he was even asking best baits for walleye in Green Bay. And, I think a lot of what you're saying really applies. Mm-hmm. As far as colors and stuff, I would urge you to go. There's so many Facebook pages for local Green Bay area, and I would go and ask those questions there or use the search function in Facebook or social media because there's so much information out there. But I think one of the things is it comes down to, like, if you are still going to a bait shop and at this point people are grabbing colors of what's left of things. So, on the other hand, don't be afraid to just go out there and try something new. But Andrew, when you are talking about like jigs, I think that's something a lot of people can relate to. And we had started talking a little bit earlier about, kind of keeping your line vertical, fishing kind of right where you're at. And you're talking about using that heavy weight. So is that part of how you're accomplishing that?
One thing, we're on Saginaw Bay, not Green Bay.
No, right. We were talking about Green Bay a little bit, but right.
Okay,
Yeah.
I got you. When we fish, let's say the Detroit River, for example, that goes from between Lake St. Clair, which is almost a Great Lake, down into Lake Erie. You're fishing anywhere from 50 to 70 feet, and the current in there is astounding. I mean, that river probably flows 5-6 miles an hour, maybe less. I don't know. It is an extremely strong current. So just even to get your bait down there, it takes a lot of weight to get it there and keep it there. That's the main reason for that. If you go any lighter, especially with clients and things, they don't always have, they have a hard time finding the bottom and keeping the bait on the bottom because you're moving constantly. You're drifting, trying to drift at the exact same speed as the river as it's pulling you. So you're moving down the river at several miles an hour and the wind's pushing you around and you're trying to keep your bait vertical because in there's a lot of rocks and there can be, different things. And the fish just seem to bite better when your bait is vertical also. So you're doing everything you can. You use your bow mount motor and you're just basically chasing your line is what you call it. Whichever direction your line is going, you follow it in that direction. And it's a pretty intense thing. You're on the trolling motor almost nonstop, especially on windy days, to get that presentation just right to get those fish to go and not snag up.
I'm looking at Josh over here. Because I know that's something that we talk about all the time. I mean, honestly, Josh is 99.9% of the time the one who navigates our boat. And so I'm really, really lucky for that. But I mean, I think that along with all those different barriers that you were talking about, and the wind, I think plays a bigger part than even you've alluded to. But, you know, in addition to that, you have all of the other people who are just beginning and learning to navigate this river system that you are also trying to navigate around.
Yeah, there's a lot going on out there for the folks that haven't been on the Detroit River on a busy weekend. There will be thousands of people on there. It's like combat fishing. Throw some Great Lakes freighters in there, cruising up and down there, and everything else going on that river. It's pretty intense. It's a unbelievably good fishery. When those fish are in there, they come in there by the millions, and there's a lot of opportunities there, and people from all around take advantage of it because it is such a great fishery. But it is, there's a you know, the only way to learn these things is do them. And a lot of people don't really want to, you know, they'll complain a little bit in the back of the boat or whatever, and you can say, fine, you want to run this motor right now? And if they say yes, it's usually really bad, and then they realize how difficult it really can be.
And I think that's a perfect reason that, especially this time of the year, people seek out guides, because it is a lot that goes into fishing in places like this. You know, the big waters or lots of people or big fish. I mean, it is so many things to handle at once. So that is, yeah, a really good point. So one of the other things that we were looking at on your Facebook page is you have coming up a 4th annual open water fishing vacation school. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that is with world champion Mark Martin. I'm sure you guys have all heard of him. He started this school is actually started in Minnesota, I think 40 some odd years ago, with the Linders and Gary Roach and things along those lines. Mark Martin got involved in that school. They asked him to be an instructor at it and things out west there. And over time, Mark just took it over and brought it back here to Michigan. And it's been an ice fishing school for all those years. And I'm not exactly sure how far back. Mark also turned on to an open water school, and that's taken place in a number of different locations. Generally, this year is on Saginaw Bay, and what we do is it's a great school because we actually go out. We do seminars the night before, and we get guys all set up. And we do seminars from our boats actually on shore, but then we go out and teach these guys in their own boats. We have, several different instructors that go out, and we each spend, several hours on each student's boat throughout the day and teach them how to fish on their own boat. It's one thing to go, a professional's boat and use all their gear and exactly how it's set up. That's really easy because that's going to be the most efficient system you could possibly have. And then you go back and get in your boat, which is completely different. And so we try and get in their boat with them and their gear and go through it and try to teach them how to most efficiently run their boat. I mean, everything from launching it to, different trolling to speeds and, every facet of a day of fishing we will cover in this 4-day school. And guys come out of there with just a lot more confidence in what they're doing. And we don't only, we teach, all different styles. We do walleye fishing predominantly, but we teach them how to use lead core. We teach them how to drift. We teach them how to pitch jigs. We teach them how to just troll regularly. We teach them how to, every aspect of bottom bouncers, the whole 9 yards. Each day we take several hours. We're not trying to catch fish per se. We're trying to teach these different techniques that you may use. We may be teaching something that you use, in the fall, but we'll teach it in the middle of the summer just so they can get hands-on and actually do it. It's a fantastic thing. It's really taken off, and guys just love it.
Yeah, I can actually or absolutely see why. There's so many people that have bought electronics or bought boats. And, I think a lot of it is just the love of the outdoors, but a lot of it is the fact that people have been stuck inside for like 2 years or whatever now. Um, but I think so many of those people are new to boating or fishing or having their own boat. And so to have somewhere to go to learn your own equipment, that is huge.
It really is, because a lot of people kind of learn what they know, and then they stick to that and just keep doing it over and over because they're comfortable with it, and it works for them, and they get some fish here and there, um, and that's good for the everyday average guy. For somebody who really wants to be in it and gain knowledge very quickly, that's kind of what it's more targeted to. We got guys that are. We have a retired. We got everybody, all kinds of people, young guys, old guys, all coming out to do this, and we'll get in their boat and we'll show them stuff, and they just didn't realize that how to fish like that, or it was just too doggone intimidating to try and take on that new technique, or you just didn't understand it. A lot of people these days, will get a lot of their information, so let's say from YouTube videos, and it is very informative without a doubt, but being hands-on, is truly the best way to learn, and especially when you have, several different people, when there's 4 of us different instructors on these open water schools, and, we're all excellent fishermen, and yeah, to get that tutelage from those different anglers, and we don't all fish the same, we fish differently. And that's the beauty of it, and you can get all those different, little key points from each person, which it makes you so much better angler, so much more rapidly. We're going out fishing with your buddies and things, they're saying, "Oh, I heard this, I heard that," and a lot of people do stuff wrong. You can believe it or not. In these schools and things, when we do them, there's a lot of people that think they're excellent fishermen, and you kind of sometimes scratch your head and you're like, "You're doing what?" It happens often.
And that's funny because sometimes you hear somebody doing something odd and sometimes it works, but usually it does not.
Well, it may have worked one day, and that's, but you kind of want to be doing things right. I mean, every now and then a blind squirrel finds a nut. I mean, you can go out there and catch 2, 3 fish, or you can go out there and catch a whole pile of fish. And a lot of times that's what the difference is fine tuning that stuff. You can pretty much, no matter what you're doing, you're probably gonna get a few bites during the day, even if you're doing it all wrong. But we all want to catch a lot of fish. It's pretty darn fun, and they taste good too.
And yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. And then the other thing that I'm seeing here, it says things that you'll need: a boat large enough to handle large waters, rigged with sonar and GPS. So are there regulations on like boat size or sonars or GPS, or is there a place that somebody could find that information?
Mark hand selects kind of, he interviews each person before they do it, and we only take 12 students in these schools, and we're going to add another school. We could do more of them, but a lot of us being charter captains, having full-time jobs, this type of thing, for us to go out and do this all summer long, we just don't have the time to do it.
Yeah.
But in regards to, boats, Saginaw Bay is part of a Great Lake, and it gets rough out there. And, you just want to make sure, because Mark gets 900 phone calls when this posts go up to enter the school. And we've had some people show up with some pretty darn interesting boats. And so I think he's trying to make that a little clearer now, because our first few go-arounds there, it was interesting. Let's just put it that way. Like, well, they didn't really belong out there.
That's crazy. And actually, for people who are not going to be making it to the school, there is still lots of other opportunity to be catching fish. We actually have Tobin here with a question about the Detroit River. Can you describe a little bit of the long lining that you do?
There is what is called hand lining. Okay, that is a technique that was pretty much developed on the Detroit River, St. Clair River, and they don't really do it a whole lot anywhere else. And what you do is it depends on how deep you are and how fast the current is where you're going to fish, but you have a series of different, and use a wire line, and it's like on a reel that connects to the side of the boat. And it can say you're going to use a 3-pound weight. So that goes down to the bottom, and then you have a line that goes off the back of that, and you can run, a lot of guys run a couple different plugs on there, and there's ones that are specifically designed for, the St. Clair River, the Detroit River. This is all this very old local stuff, and you have this wire in your hand, and you just, slowly troll upstream and just pick this weight up and down off the bottom, and you go very slowly, and that lure will get right in these fish's face, and it's what they use in a lot of you use it in cold water and dirty water is when it's used the most. Otherwise, a lot of guys will jig, but it's a very effective way to fish heavy currents in deep water slowly. Where if you're jigging, you're at the pace of the river, which is rather fast. So this is a way to slow it down and keep that bait in the strike zone longer. And I don't know how long they've been doing that, but for a really long time down there, it's a neat way to fish. That's I don't know if they really do it a whole lot anywhere else. Some guys will pull a line, which is a similar thing to that. But yeah, probably the best way to really learn about that would be YouTube, because it is really kind of hard to explain what they're doing and how it works.
Yeah, I think we've heard about this a time or two, but I think it's one of those things that until you really experience it, it's like a whole new concept.
Yeah, and I have not done a whole lot of it myself. I'm not very experienced. Some of these guys are really good at it. I like jigging. That just sitting there pulling on that weight. And you gotta have arm like Popeye after a while. Yeah. You get tired doing it. It's a lot, picking that thing up and down, up and down, up and down, and like I said, it has its times that it's very effective. Cold water and muddy water, early season, that type of things. A lot of the guys, on the tournaments in the spring here are all early. That's a lot of the techniques that they use.
That is, again, one of those really interesting reasons, though, that people, like you said, look up YouTube or get a guide, because so often you are learning a technique. So, maybe that is jigging, maybe that is, something else. But I think that is a really cool thing to be able to learn as you visit kind of region by region.
Right. And charter captains generally don't use it because you can only use 2 lines.
Oh, yeah.
That's all you can fish is 2 off the back of the boat. So it's not an effective way for when you have a bunch of clients in the boat. They just don't want to fish like that. They want all of them actively want to be fishing, trying to get their own fish, that type of thing. I suppose if you had a very small group with a couple people that they might want to do it, but most groups do not want to do that.
Yeah, that's for sure. Josh just pulled up a really nice picture of you here, and you're on ice with 2 nice walleyes. So kind of makes me miss ice season already.
I totally miss it. A week ago today was the last day, or a week ago yesterday was my last day on the ice. So I just gave it up recently, but I already missed it. Ice fishing is my true passion. I really love to ice fish.
And actually, I have to ask, because I also noticed that you're wearing your Apex bibs, and those are new this year. So how'd you like them?
They are fantastic. They a lot of the suits, are very, really big and bulky, and that one it's a lot lighter. It's not as bulky, and it works. It's not fighting you all the time. It works with me, and being a guide out there, I'm moving around a lot, doing a lot of stuff, setting people's shelters up, getting snowmobiles around, drilling holes. I'm moving, doing, grooving all the time. I just don't set up and plunk down and do nothing. I'm in action out there almost the entire time, or a good part of it. And that suit works great for that because it is lighter, and by the end of the day, the less weight you're pulling around, the more you're kind of fighting where it bunches and things. It made my job easier, and it's warm. I mean, it's out there on the bay. It's wide open. It's windy and it's cold. It's nasty out there, and it's like a bomb going off a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And it performed very well. I was happy with it, and I'll certainly be wearing that thing next year.
Yeah.
Forever. I mean, as long as until they come out with something better, it's these products you guys are coming out with, these space age materials and things, just keep on getting better and better, and it is just fantastic. Kind of like wearing a shanty,
Yeah. Yeah, actually, we've said that too. That's funny. But the reason I asked you, and you kind of touched on this, is because, Josh was kind of half considering, like, does he get an Apex suit? Does he stick with an old favorite? What does that look like? And actually, because the Apex has the Primaloft insulation and that makes it super warm, we were worried about, like, honestly, him overheating. But like you're saying, it's light enough, it's adjustable, it still has the adjustable zippers on the side for venting, so maybe you need a suit next year.
Maybe.
Yeah, I can't say it seems to breathe very well. Didn't ever really build up a big sweat even on the warmer days and things. And I layer up and kind of understand the day, being that it's my office out there, what to wear and what I'm going to do. But I can say it worked really well. I can't think of, I got really no complaints about it. Like, I never got super duper hot or anything like that. And you can unzip it. And I'm a guy that doesn't like to fish with a jacket on or do things with a jacket on. I like to, unless I have to have it on. And obviously on the bay, when we drive out, a lot of times we'll drive out 10, 12 miles each direction to get to our fishing location. So you got to have some good gear on those rides, especially on mornings where it's below zero and things like that. It's a long snowmobile ride. And but once you get out there and get set up, it's a nice day. I like to take the jacket off and fish just in my bibs, but that's not always not that lucky.
Yeah.
So now that we're kind of in the boat and stuff, what do you wear out in the boat, and like what do you recommend, like when you're bringing clients out? Like, how do you prepare them for a day out in the springtime like this?
I tell most of them to dress like it's winter.
Yeah.
Because they always seem to be a lot of times underdressed, especially when we're going on the Great Lakes, because a lot of times when you get out on the water, people don't understand that it's going to drop probably 10 degrees at least,
Mm-hmm.
and can't even be more than that when you're on inland and the sun's out and it's not very windy. You go on the lake and the wind comes up and it's cold. And a lot of them just, if they aren't experienced fishermen on the Great Lakes and things, they don't quite understand the temperature drop that you can get when you get out there. So I always try and push them to bring as much clothing as they can, because you can always take it off, but you can't put it on if you don't have it.
Yeah.
And I waterproof stuff. You can get spray off the waves, so even if it's not windy, if you have a slight wind and cross, and I run like a skeeter walleye boat, and you can get spray off waves if it's a pretty strong wind coming into the boat, and you can get wet. So always try to have them do it. What I like to wear, I usually start the season off. I'll start the season right off with that Apex suit most of the time, because it is cold. It's windy. It's just like ice fishing. It's colder than ice fishing a lot of the time because you're not in a shelter.
Yeah.
And then I have the Denali suit, which I'll wear next, the insulated one.
Yep.
And I have not worn that yet. The weather has been really windy, really cold, really wet, all of the above, pretty much all season. So I just put the Apex suit away for good here a couple days ago. I'm gonna call the Denali suit here is gonna be. The weather's going to be good for that. So,
Andrew, I have good news, and I am excited for you, and I will tell you why. The insulation in that Denali rain gear is the same insulation from your Apex suit, just kind of distributed a little bit different and a little bit less because it's rain gear and not winter gear. But I will tell you, I have been talking about this Denali gear for so long, and I finally got some. But the thing about it is, with that shell that is totally wind and waterproof, and then that layer of that Primaloft insulation, you are going to have a really easy transition into that next set of gear for this next season.
Good. I'm looking forward to it because it's next time I'm in the boat here coming up this. In a few days, I will be wearing that, and I got to tell you, I'm pretty darn geeked about it because it does look awesome. It feels good. I'm into it.
Oh my gosh, awesome! I feel like I'm gonna have to touch base with you. Like,
Sure.
I've loved my suit, so that's been so fun. I'm excited for you. Oh my gosh. So as we are kind of winding down on time here, how does your season look coming up? Or do you still have spots left for guide trips?
Oh, yeah, I have spots. I do. Prime time on Saginaw Bay is May, June, and the first half of July. That's when, you want to be there. All the weekends are full, but there are some midweek spots available yet, and then it picks up again in the fall. And then ice fishing season so doggone far out. There's lots of openings for that, but that will definitely fill up Saginaw Bay as a bucket list destination, especially for ice fishermen. So those weekends fill up fast, and I always tell people, if you want to get the best weekends and the times, and we don't always have ice out there. There's some years you can't even fish it. So and sometimes the seasons, this year was very long. We had a fantastic ice season this year, a fantastic bite during the entire season. But some years the season might only be 2-3 weeks long. So it's kind of in a core area there, right around mid-January to mid-February on a bad year. And, if you want to go, you better book it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. So for people at home that might be interested in booking that trip, can you tell them how they can get a hold of you or how they maybe can follow you on social media?
Well, you can look up Northstar Fishing Adventures on Facebook. That's going to be where I spend the most of my time. You can message me on there. The best way probably to get a hold of me in all reality, just call me on the phone. My phone number is 616-450-1417. Or you can text me. I really prefer just to talk to people. Going back and forth with messages. I'm busy and I don't have a lot of time always to look at my phone and typing and things. I'm generally multitasking, doing several different things. I can talk and do other things. It's hard for me to type and fish and do whatever else I'm doing. So just give me a call. It's the best way, and we can figure out the best time and the schedule and what you're looking to get and all that good stuff.
That is really super awesome. And Andrew, don't go anywhere because we're going to talk to you after the show, but I'm going to sum up the show. So just don't leave. But with that, thank you for being here. I guess that's normally what I say because it is and has been a totally unique and fun episode.
Mm-hmm.
And to the people at home, thank you guys for being here as well, because you guys are half the fun, hearing your comments and questions and all the different things along the way. And with that, looking forward to seeing everybody on next week's episode of Hook, Line, and Striker.
Night, everybody.